We've just rehung our entire Australian collection, 180 years of art. We've put them in newly redesigned, relit galleries and redisplayed many of our iconic works. The gallery space has been extended by almost 25%. We now have 145 more works on display, so it's enabled us to tell a richer story about the Australian collection. Something we want to do in these collection displays was include contemporary art with the art of the past. It wasn't about making sort of clashing juxtapositions so much as tracing continuities in art practice. On my left we have James Angus's Bugatti. It's a work made in 2006, but it's actually a 1920s racing car which is cast and remodelled. He shifted it through a gravitational shift 30 degrees to the right, and it can no longer support itself and starts to tip over. We've placed this car almost crashing into Grace Cossington-Smith's 1928-29 painting of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Grace Constance-Smith is looking at this engineering marvel, the Sydney Harbour Bridge as it's being built, whereas James Angus's Bugatti is another 1920s engineering marvel. And so we put this contemporary work and this historical work together to have this dialogue across time. Behind me we've got Laurence's installation, The Memory of Nature. And we've hung that with two paintings from the early 20th century by Elioth Gruner. On one side we've got Spring Frost from 1919. It's a radiant work which shows cows and a farmer bathed in morning light and was painted just after the First World War. It's a work very much about comfort and plenitude after that period. On the other side of the Laurence, we've hung another Elioth Gruner, The Valley of the Tweed, painted just 2 years later, and it's a very different work. It's quite a modern work, and in the foreground there's dead trees all over that landscape. Laurence in the centre between those two paintings has a very contemporary take on the environment and on nature. She's brought together scientific instruments, she's brought together plant samples and animals, the things studied by science as we understand nature, because science often kills those things when it's studying them as well. Putting them in these glass cases and mirrored cases, she refers back to museum display techniques and has this wonderful sense of accumulating objects in a museum, veiled and made poetic through this transformative process.